I want to know everything there is to know about you.
I am going to introduce me.
You must have spotted her by now. She's always there.
Don't I deserve love?
Somebody has to like me best.
Hello, and welcome to the Don't Know Her podcast. I'm Michael.
And I am Scott.
And we're here, as always, to celebrate an actor who we have grown up with, who we know, who we potentially and probably do want to see more of.
Judi Dench disagrees.
Judi Dench disagrees. I'm sure there's a lot of other secret people that want to tear down this actor. I don't know. I mean, we'll get into the Judi Dench rivalry, but we are talking about the one-time Oscar winner, two-time Oscar nominee, Marcia "Homosexual" Harden.
We sure are. And what a hard-on she is.
Or we should really say homosexual icon, Marcia Gay Harden. Because I feel like that's a real draw, to me anyway, is her sensibilities around, you know, queerness. Because she seems to be in no way queer as an individual. Yeah. But she somehow has that energy, which I know a lot of people that gay men tend to gravitate towards. You know, older women that are supporting all the time, haven't quite had their moment perhaps. So she does fit that well. But also she seems to be having a great time whenever she's doing interviews, whenever she is promoting movies on awards. Even her Oscar speech is so camp in that people are shocked, like you can see around, like people like Ed Harris is like, has his hands on his head, and she arrives on stage to have a really understated...
What a thrill.
So yeah, I think gay people would gravitate towards this person. And yeah, the second person after Diane Wiest for us to talk about, who is an Oscar winner. What about her excites you?
Her name's Gay Harden, for fuck's sake. What about Marcia excites me? Many things, but I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head. I think she just is a bit of a gay magnet for whatever reason. I was actually sat at work yesterday and turned to the girl next to me, said, "Do you know who this woman is?" And she said no. And then I turned to the gay man in front of me, shout out to Jamie, and said, "Do you know Marcia Gay Harden?" And he went, "Of course!" So I think, you know, that speaks volumes, and maybe it's just always been important to me. But I don't know what it is about her specifically. I think there's a sharpness there, a warmth there. She cropped up in a lot of films I would have watched when I was younger and growing up watching films. So I think she just embedded herself in my mind. But there is just something magnetic about her, and I'm not sure I can fully put my finger on it, because if you were to describe her, or certainly her type on screen, elements of it might also sound like a bit of a deterrent, but it's just not at all for me. So she's a fascinating performer with a fascinating Oscar win. Yeah. The performance itself, sure, but also the situation. And I'm just into her. Is what I would say.
Yeah, it feels... She was a very obvious person to talk about because she has been in so many films. And you know, when I was contemplating, like, why exactly are we doing Marcia Gay Harden? Why does she fit what we're doing? And I thought about, like, yes, like yourself, have to explain who this person is, and also describe the scenes she's in, because, you know, people will have seen The First Wives Club and potentially might know who this woman is, but they won't necessarily remember she was in it. Or the same with Flubber, or anything like Grandma. I forgot she was in Grandma. Looking at her filmography, it was like, oh yeah, she played the daughter and mother, like the generation in between there. She just has this sort of quality where she is larger than life, which I think comes from her stage work.
Yeah.
And most of the time doesn't have to adjust it for the character she plays, but when she does adjust it, then she might be a bit not forgettable, but just not, you won't remember, say, grandma for Marcia Gay Harden. You will remember her in The Mist.
If you can find her.
Or even Flubber. Like, oh my lord. I don't think I had seen Flubber before, but oh my god. We'll get onto that. Or even Space Cowboys, where she, is some scientist person collecting these old men to do a very dangerous trip around to save the planet from this satellite thing. Anyway, she is giving you a sort of all-American performance without losing kind of integrity, if that makes sense. And I think that's hard to do. And I think a lot of theatre actors don't make that transition so well. Or what I should say, actors with a lot of theatre sensibilities don't make that transition so well. But yeah, she has it. I'm really glad. And also we're getting, her most interesting work of late, I would argue, is in TV. And I'm really enjoying watching her on TV shows like The Morning Show and even Uncoupling, which I somehow kept watching despite kind of having a lot of questions about what is wrong with these characters. But her character in it as this divorced woman, or about to be divorced, trying to sell her home and trying to find, excitement in her life. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I there's something particularly exciting about her, even though I don't ever imagine, some sort of huge role coming her way in the future, because I don't think maybe she is pushing towards that. Like, she's not, she's not in the sort of movies that lead to that sort of thing, and because she doesn't seem to want to. Like, she's just happy out. She's delighted. She's there on a RuPaul chat show I've never heard of, talking about how she's a gay icon. She doesn't want to do anything else. She's there bitching about Judi Dench being angry she lost an Oscar to her. I don't know where the appetite will come from, but I would absolutely love if she did have more gems in the future, and maybe that's even more in line of something like The Book Club or Under the Tuscan Sun or Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, as opposed to another Mystic River or another Pollock. But yeah.
Oh, good. And was First Wives Club your first memory of Marcia?
Oh yeah, I would not have known it was, obviously, I guess, as I was a little boy when I first watched First Wives Club, but I remember that character so well. Like her introduction, where you see her books before you meet her.
Yeah.
And the main book is like Getting What You Want and Looking Great by Leslie. That's going to annoy me. Anyway, Marcia Gay Harden's character, and her pictures on it. And then you hear her talk to Diane Keating about like,
do it, Annie. Get angry.
I couldn't. I know that I should, Leslie. I really do. It's just
Hit me. Stand up,
No,
Annie, and hit me.
I can't, Leslie. I'm so sorry. It's
Come
just,
on.
Maybe, I know what, maybe, next
Annie,
week.
let it out. I want you to hit me. Trust me. Come on. It's okay.
Okay.
and then Diane Keating like whacks her around the head with these. Well, they look soft, but I imagine that's quite sore.
No, I reckon there was some weight behind those bats.
And it's such a camp again, and I guess this is going back to the thing.
That's very much camp.
She's camp, and then when Diane Keating's going to this therapist for help because she's going through a separation with her husband, and then the final time we see Marcia Gay Harden, I believe, is when Diane Keating realizes Marcia Gay Harden is having a relationship with her husband or ex-husband or separated husband.
Aaron, she's allowed to be angry. Annie, let's use this. He's found someone new. You're free. Closure.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but that is not what this is.
Well, Annie,
No,
Annie, you are not helping us out here.
But it's just the sort of like her ability to be the straight person in that scene, but not in like a dull way. She is still giving you this sort of a comedic sort of performance that you kind of dream of in terms of when you go to see these kind of escapist films. You want supporting performances that are as animated and as alive as what she's doing there.
Love it. And what? Tell us about the T-shirt you're wearing.
Of course. So as you know me very well, for Christmas, I believe, or my birthday's very close to Christmas, and I get confused. Birthday, Christmas present. I have a First Wives Club T-shirt. Sadly, not with Marcia on it, but we do have Bette Midler, Goldie Hawn, and Diane Keating there.
Oh.
And it's a very special present. And I'm guessing First Wives Club or Flubber would have been yours? Like one of those.
Flubber was mine, yes. Flubber was a film I had on videotape as a child that I would have watched a lot. Like, it's very much ingrained in my head. I can remember it so very well. And even though her part is hardly the most inspiring in her catalogue, I do remember her very warmly and fondly from there as the object of Robin Williams' affections.
Yeah, it's I honestly don't think I've seen it before preparing for this podcast. And sure, we'll get into it when we will talk more about that film. But it's funny because Marcia, when I was thinking about Marcia Gay as her full name, Marcia Gay, when I was thinking about Marcia Gay, I was like, do you know what? I've seen so many of these films with my family. Like myself and my dad would have gone to the cinema quite a lot. Like, this is something we really enjoyed, but we'd go to see, like, he'd love to go to see films by Quentin Tarantino or Clint Eastwood or those sorts of people, Scorsese. And it's such a lovely memory when I look back. But I remember us going to see Mystic River, which of course I would have been particularly excited about because of Laura Linney and Marcia Gay Harden in it. And preparing for this, my partner was so excited to watch The Mist again and share it with me because he had such a good experience of it, which is interesting. No, but what I guess it's just like, yeah, great. I don't know. I just have a warm feeling towards her for so many reasons. And it's maybe not the most exciting filmography in some ways, but something about it is really endearing. Like, she's a grafter that's working in mainstream American film and is getting kind of varied roles.
I think that's a really interesting point, actually, because I think that's the key to something that fascinates me about Marcia or Marcia Gay. I might flip-flop between those.
Between Gay and Marcia.
Yes. Although the two are intrinsically linked, I'm still going to flip-flop. But the best of us do. Anyway, the thing about Marcia is that she does feel typecast, and especially in areas of her career, certainly maybe that middle patch around the noughties kind of onwards. However, I think she, even though there's something about her that's so familiar and we sort of enjoy the familiar tics and approaches of Marcia, she has kind of shaded in all of these familiar characters very differently. So what I will take from going and watching the films for this episode is that, yes, I really liked her, but I do think she's far more versatile performer than I had initially thought going in. And I think that is in a nuanced and really interesting way, actually. So, yay, Marcia Gay.
Yeah, well, I mean, she clearly must be. Like, this is someone who played Harper in Angels in America. Like, I think she has been given a lot to do on screen, as we've been saying, but she is able to do a lot more. And I think, yeah, you can tell that from the work that she does. Because they're often stereotypes or archetypes, but she usually is able to give a lot more to those characters than many other actors would do.
But probably always having a good time.
Yeah, I say she's good crack.
She's good crack. And she probably loves good crack too. Anyway, so shall we jump into the career and have a little meander around some of her finest moments as we go?
Yeah, let's do some prodding. Marcia Gay prodding.
Let's prod the bear. Okay, so Marcia Gay Harden was born on the 14th of August 1959 in, now I don't know if it's La Jolla or La Jolla, or could it be La Jolla?
La Jolla. That sounds La Jolla Jackson.
La Jolla Jackson.
That
California.
sounds right to me, but I don't know.
Oh, it depends. One of those pronunciations will be correct. I suspect La Jolla is not the one, so La Jolla. Maybe we'll go with that. Yeah. Anyway, California. As Harden's father was an officer in the US Navy, she spent a great deal of her childhood moving around, living in the likes of Japan, Germany, and Greece, when not actually living within the US itself. Her interest in theatre really took off whilst living in Greece, having gone to see a variety of plays whilst living in Athens. So then we move on to Marcia's education. She graduated from high school in Maryland in 1976 before heading to the University of Austin, Texas, where she studied a BA in theatre. Now, Marcia graduated in 1980. She also was the first graduate from the University of Austin, Texas, or the University of Texas, to win an Oscar.
Oh.
The second coming along just 3 or 4 years later in Renée Zellweger for her Cold Mountain win.
Who bet Marcia on her second nomination.
So what a trip.
What a thrill.
What a thrill. And then whilst she was there at uni in Austin, she starred in a student-produced movie. So that was her first foray into the world of screen acting. She then went to the Tisch School of the Arts in New York to study a Master of Fine Arts, which she received in 1988. Following this, Marcia embarked on her acting career. She starred in a handful of TV shows throughout the later 80s, such as Simon and Simon and CBS Summer Playhouse.
Is Simon and Simon a gay thing?
Sounds gay. I can't tell you a lot more off the top of my head, but let's go.
But that would be amazing. I'm imagining a lovely queer rom-com that she was their friend who I don't know. I can't.
No. She actually plays Simon and Simon.
What?
No, I'm joking.
Okay. Anyway, let's return.
Okay, let's then jump into what was her first film role. Although it doesn't seem to crop up in all of her filmographies. To my reading, it was her first. 1986's thriller The Image Maker, where she played a stage manager.
The Image.
She truly is the Image. But I guess if we kind of scoot on to her first big break, that would come along with the Coen brothers directed Miller's Crossing in 1990. In there, she would star alongside the likes of Gabriel Byrne, Albert Finney, and John Turturro. Now, Miller's Crossing. So that is a film about how do we describe Miller's Crossing? An advisor to a sort of, a crime boss. So Gabriel Byrne playing this advisor to a crime boss, political boss figure, played by Albert Finney. And he's sort of there as a bit of a kind of peacemaker between his mob and other warring mobs. But what we then go on to discover is that they have something in common. They are both...
Ow!
They have something in common. They are both in love with Marcia Gay Harden, like the rest of us. And they are not wrong to be. But that, of course, throws a bit of a spanner in the works. So we see Gabriel Byrne's character being ping-ponged around.
What is this about, Tom? You want me to stop seeing Leo? Why don't you just say so?
I want you to quit spinning Leo in circles and pointing him where to go.
I forgot that's your job, isn't it?
I'll do what I have to do to protect Leo. I'm asking you politely, leave him alone. I don't have to ask. If I told him about our little dance last night, your puller pretty soon dry up.
So would yours. I don't like being threatened.
And I don't like being taken for a sucker.
But yeah, I feel like that's a fair gist. Yeah. This was your first time with this Coen Brothers film?
I believe so. I am going to say something that's going to shock you.
Oh.
And say I'm not a big fan of Gabriel Byrne, which is so rare.
But you're so Irish. What?
I'm even celebrating...
Daddy!
I celebrate mostly, they don't even have to really be... You're proud of being Irish.
No,
I'm still
normally
they're Irish.
The
I'll go on about them. But something about Gabriel Byrne I don't really enjoy on screen, or to be honest, off screen. Anyway, where are we? What am I doing? I'm just bitching about Gabriel Byrne. I hadn't seen it probably for that reason. Obviously, I really enjoy a lot of the Coen Brother films. And this is their third one, is it?
It is an early one. It's either their second or their third. I think you're right with third.
Because I really enjoy Raising Arizona that comes before it, which is like a madcap sort of dark comedy, I guess you'd call it, with Nicolas Cage. But Miller's Crossing was grand. I feel like, when you know filmmakers for their later work, particularly for their like greater work, you're like, I see all the ingredients of what would make a Coen's brother film truly terrific, and Miller's Crossing doesn't quite get there. I do think that's perhaps to do with the casting as well. I don't think Gabriel Byrne, and I'd be interested to hear what you think, because I have a natural disinterest in him. I didn't think he was particularly charismatic or interesting. I thought Albert Finney was terrific. And then when it comes to Marcia Gay, I mean, firstly, I didn't see any chemistry between herself and the men. So it was like, this sort of triangle doesn't quite work. And it felt maybe there was something missing. And maybe it's to do with the writing. Maybe, I'm not saying it's her performance, about being this sort of femme fatale that's almost like a... why can't I think of that amazing woman that worked with Humphrey Bogart, Gloria Graham? Like there's something missing in terms of Marcia Gay's presence for that sort of role. Although she wears this green dress, and I think it's so glamorous. She's very glamorous in it, so she does fit it physically. It's just something doesn't spark for the whole film and for her as well. But yeah, it's a fun film, and if you are a completist with Coen Brothers, I'd recommend it, or even Albert Finney, or Marcia Gay Harden, I guess. But yeah, that was kind of my thought of it. It doesn't. I would have been fine if I'd never seen that movie. But I liked it. And I should say, like, it's old fashioned in terms of these like 40s, 50s sort of gangster films, but does feel contemporary, and it is quite fun. Yes,
I can't say I disagree. So when I watched this one for the first time quite a few years ago, I remember being so excited about it because the imagery has always been at the forefront of discussions around Coen Brothers films. So I thought it would be iconic Coen Brothers. But I think ultimately it is less than the sum of its parts in that it's just sort of boring. I kind of don't have any hook into it throughout, sadly. I think what I will give it a lot of respect for is that Marcia is super glamorous and given what is, I mean, a fairly conventional and obvious role, but a fairly important and big role considering this was her first major work, and off the success of their previous films, Raising Arizona and Blood Simple, I think, are the two that would have led up to it. I think it's very exciting that they gave her this film, and even if, like you say, the writing lets her down, her presence is strong, and that must be the reason we then see her start to accumulate more roles in Hollywood films.
Yeah, and so I don't think, and I could be wrong, that when you think like, femme fatale who is going to cause like gangsters to start killing each other, Marcia Gay Harden does not jump to mind. And I have this frustration sometimes when it comes to casting in films of like, okay, we're just going to cast somebody that visually fits this so clearly. We're not going to allow an actor to be able to transform. Whereas, that's been a real privilege of, say, living in London, being able to see theatre when it's affordable. And you see actors play all these sorts of parts. And someone who is completely unattractive and like a villain, let's say, in one play, then turns around as the most gorgeous person you'll ever see in another. And I don't think that happens so often in film, particularly for women, unless they're doing a Charlize Theron sort of like huge, like purposefully transformative thing. But it wouldn't happen with a character actor like Marcia Gay Harden. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching her in this role, and also I don't know, you'll cover this in a second, but she also plays Ava Gardner in a TV film, and she's being really glamorous again and like sassy, and I was just like, yeah, I wish we got more of this, and maybe she can still do those sorts of roles. I would love to see her as like an heiress who's just ultra glamorous, ultra sexy, and has men flocking to her.
Yeah. Yeah, she does glamour very well. It feels, yes, there's a natural something to it. But the dresses in Miller's Crossing certainly add to that, that's for sure.
Mm.
So even though that was a big break moment for Marcia Gay, you would think, hey, she's going to make it big time. And as one of the busiest performers we've talked about in this podcast, because her filmography, as you'll understand as I go through this, is long and there is a lot on it. At this point in time, kind of off the back of this and picking up a few roles following, she has since spoken saying that she still had to pick up catering jobs to support herself, basically, whilst living in New York. So I think this maybe just speaks to why she's so busy. She probably is a very committed person, driven, was going to make it work, even if I have to do catering jobs. And thank goodness she did.
Yeah.
The following years see her picking up roles in TV films such as Broad Daylight and Fever, alongside some more big screen work. We have film roles in the likes of Late for Dinner, Crush, and Used People. She also starred in 2 episodes of Sinatra, as you've mentioned, playing the glamorous Ava Gardner. A massively significant moment in Marcia's career would come in 1993 with her casting in the Broadway opening of Tony Kushner's monumental Angels in America. This was the run, this Broadway debut basically was the run that followed the play's San Francisco opening. I think that's where it all kicked off for Angels in America. And then it would play in London as well before it made its Broadway debut. But Marcia being in that debut cast was huge for her. And obviously, I reckon, key to how things would unfold from here and the notice she would get. She also scores a Tony Awards nomination for her performance of for her performance of Harper Pitt and others. As if you're familiar with Angels in America, some of the lead players do play a variety of characters. This sort of time, though, wasn't the only thing she was doing on stage. In 94, she stars in a Sam Shepard play, Simpatico. In the following years, though, we see some more films coming her way, like Safe Passage, The Day Trippers, Spy Hard, which is one of the kind of older...
Are these X-rated films? Safe Passage, Spy Hard.
No, well, oh god, Safe Passage. I didn't even look that one. No. But Spy Hard is, I think, I've not actually seen it, but this sort of post-Airplane Leslie Nielsen spoof.
Oh yeah, Die Hard. I assume so. Yeah.
But yeah, around kind of action spy films.
Oh, I love it.
But when asked about doing Spy Hard, she did go on to say, "Ugh, I hated doing that movie. It was, I thought, going to be an opportunity to have a lot of fun, but it was just chaos and, not so much fun. And not so funny. I mean, Leslie was great, but it was really his show, and it was just very chaotic. Behind schedule, over budget."
I'm trying to think of what your Marcia Gay Harden impression reminds me of, but it's more like a British... middle to upper class woman, isn't it? But I love it.
I mean, I wasn't trying for impression.
Oh, were you not?
Maybe in a future quote I'll try. But
I love it. No, don't change a thing.
It's one of my many characters that I roll out every day.
Oh my lord.
Following Spy Hard and her joyous experience on that, we of course get the podcast favourite, the one scrolled all over Michael's t-shirt. Of course it is The First Wives Club in 1996, where Marcia plays Dr. Leslie Rosen.
That's it, Dr. Leslie.
The foam bat wielding therapist to Diane Keaton's character. and ultimately the woman who steals her man.
Yeah, the man from Seventh Heaven, whatever his name is. Really, because we're not going to stop much on this, but I was listening to an interview, and you might have listened to it too, but she talked about her excitement for doing First Wives Club and that she'd have these scenes with Diane Keating, and then she turns up on set, and Diane Keating has headphones in, is listening to music, doing her own thing, and Marcia's just like, okay, so I'm not having any interaction with her. And then Diane properly whacked her with that soft thing. And the way Marcia worded it was like, yeah, and we kept in character, so it worked really well for the film. And I was like, that sounds like you have no option in this because you're being hit by Diane Keating. But yes, wonderful. She is wonderful in that film. If they ever make a sequel, I would love her to return.
Oh, 100%. I think she is an absolute hoot in this.
She could be a new first wife.
Exactly. She could move into that area and we would all be blessed for that. But yes, First Wives Club, a favourite. Happy to always talk about it. I feel like we have previously spoken about it on the podcast, have we?
We have.
Who for?
But I'm trying to think.
Victor Garber.
Oh, hottie. Oh, my God. What a man. What a man.
Oh, we're all drooling
Sorry.
over here.
Yeah,
no,
I gotta go.
What a weird Victor fan club. But we are also a Marcia fan club. So let's trot away from Victor and the First Wives Club into 1997, where we see her star in my first memory of Marcia. That is alongside Robin Williams in the family sci-fi comedy Flubber, which sounds like she had a really wonderful experience on, even if the film, is whatever you might make of it. I think meeting Robin Williams, she said, is one of the highlights of her career. They remained friends up until he sadly died. But she said it was also the loudest set she'd ever been on.
Why, because of him or because of
I'd imagine
sound?
Mostly because of him.
Or sound like effects and stuff. Yeah, okay, interesting.
But so even though she kind of knew it was very much a sort of star vehicle for him, she had a good time and enjoyed the laughter. Anyway, Flubber,
what a thrill.
Happy times. What about the years thereafter? So, 98 sees her star alongside Michael Keaton and Andy Garcia in Desperate Measures, which I seem to remember as being one of those films that you used to sometimes get free with TVs when you bought DVD players back in the day. There'd always be a little starter pack, and it would include stuff like Billy Elliot, Bridget Jones, Spider-Man, but I seem to remember that Desperate Measures was one of the ones often in that pack. So I have seen this film. Anthony Hopkins and Brad Pitt in Meet Joe Black, which I think would have been quite a hit at the time. I think Meet Joe Black was
and a hefty part. She's playing... it's a hefty film. It's a hefty thing. She's playing, the older daughter of Anthony Hopkins. And, yeah, I haven't seen that in years and forgot she was in it. But watching clips, I was like, yeah, good for you.
Good for you. I haven't watched that one in a long, long time. Because the film takes a long, long time to watch.
It's so long.
It's so strangely long.
Unnecessarily. That's a 90-minute idea.
It is, 100%.
At most, 60 minutes would be fine.
But it goes on. Anyway, it does give her a lot of screen time, which is a blessing. So we'll take it. So we then also have her starring alongside James Spader, Michael Caine, and Dame Maggie Smith in a really, really delightful and seriously underseen and I would say underpraised film called Curtain Call, which I believe in the US is called It All Came True. And because there's probably not an occasion where we talk about it otherwise, it's this really fantastic film where James Spader, does he buy a house?
And
whilst he's kind of renovating it, these deceased theatre stars played by Caine and Smith appear, and it's just a hoot. I had so much fun watching it. It is one fairly unavailable.
How did we? Because we watched it during lockdown. One of our things.
If you do some searches online, you will be able to come across it somewhere.
Safe passage to an illegal site.
And I recommend it if you're a Maggie completist, a Marcia completist, and just want a good time, a gay old time indeed. I really recommend it.
I second everything there. Yeah,
fabulous. 2000 is a key year for Marcia, though. This is where it gets really exciting. She stars in, which from our earlier discussion at the start of this episode, sounds like maybe your favourite film ever, Clint Eastwood's Space Cowboys.
No way. I mean, I watched it once when I was younger, and I remember the old men stripping and thinking, oh my God, why are we watching this?
Oh my God, hot.
And now things have different. No, to be honest, I've not rewatched it, but the clips of it, and you know, that's a pretty big role for her.
Yeah.
I think she's a romantic interest of Tommy Lee Jones.
I think
she's also
is
she running NASA? Like, I think.
Well,
I hope none of those men are. Donald Sutherland, James Garner, Clint Eastwood, and Tommy Lee Jones wouldn't trust it. I think they have to lie to get into space. Because they have to be as good as like a 25-year-old man.
Yeah.
And they like lie about their eyesight, lie about everything. And anyway, sorry, I don't remember much of the movie.
Dangerous. But... No, I don't remember anything about it, but I do remember renting it.
And it was a hit. Like, it was a big deal, right?
Well, guess. But importantly, and we will come back around to this, is that first outing with director Clint Eastwood. But it is, of course, the year of Ed Harris's Pollock, where she plays artist Lee Krasner, and this, of course, is where she wins her Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. Michael, would you like to tell us about Pollock?
Yeah, Pollock follows the story of American artist Jackson Pollock and his relationship with his wife, who's my notes have gone. What is Leslie? Leslie, am I calling her Leslie
Lee
again?
Krasner.
Lee. And so Jackson and Lee, they meet. She is an artist also. And it's about, really the film is about their relationship while he becomes very celebrated. And to be fair, like not much else happens. I mean, it follows his life. So for those who do not know, he died very young. But yeah, it's in one way it is exactly what you imagine an Oscar-winning biopic, and then on the other end you're like, okay, but this is more interesting. So overall, like, I'd never seen it before. I have seen, as you know, so many films because they win Oscars, and for whatever reason, Pollock was a film which I've seen bits of, but never the whole thing. I don't think properly. And which is a surreal thing when I started watching it. I was like, oh, I know this music. It's like, well, of course I do, because I've watched her Oscar-winning clip so often, right. And they're playing the music as she gets up on stage. So I knew the music, and I knew certain scenes. But yeah, it's an interesting one because I do, like, there's some interesting aspects to it. But overall, I found it much more unengaging than I guess I kind of hoped it would be. And that goes kind of for all areas of it. Like, I think Ed Harris and Marcia Gay Harden are giving good performances. But again, I don't think there's anything amazing, like spectacular. Like, doesn't surprise me that nobody's ever said to me, you have to watch Pollock or you have to watch Marcia Gay in Pollock.
Oh.
I think it's good. I mean, maybe there's something about her reputation or like her in my mind that, so now watching it for the first time when she has these scenes where she's like encouraging Ed Harris to marry her or telling him like his art isn't good enough or what is this, or the most classic I guess scene, and one that Aubrey Plaza has brought into more mainstream consciousness, where she's yelling,
You are a great artist. I believe in Jackson Pollock. And there's you, and there's the painting, and you need.
All of that, to me, watching it was kind of unintentionally humorous in that, like, this is a campy sort of thing because the whole thing is so serious that I need some sort of entertainment. And I guess I was just like, latching onto that. Do not hate her winning an Oscar for this film, but certainly wouldn't recommend this film to people. So is this your first time watching Pollock?
It is my first time watching Pollock, and I actually think she's really great in this. Like I said earlier, I like to see the shades that she can bring to different things, and I really think she brings so much life to this movie and to this character. She plays her as, an artist who is obviously very keen to be involved and get to know all of the other artists in New York. She makes it her business, and when she kind of breezes into Pollock's life, we see her as this kind of bolshy, exciting energy, which is just a really wonderful thing to see. And I think those moments that now feel iconic for their campy, impressionable value, I think it's really good stuff. So I really do rate her in this. I've never seen her play anything like this before. I feel like she spent a lot of time and put a lot of work into bringing this character to life and getting to know her and getting to know this world. I think she spoke about this being the most exciting project she's ever worked on, for how immersed she was able to get into and to work with Ed Harris. And I guess you can feel that, and maybe that's what we then see the Academy recognising. The film itself, I'm not too interested. I'm not interested in watching a film about Pollock, even if in the beginning I got a sense of kind of fake nostalgia, but I think that was down to a score which I found really playful and probably reminded me of a lot of other films that were around at that time. And the scenes where we see him painting for the first time and finding his iconic style, I do find that quite thrilling to watch, actually. But as he descends into being a bit of a drunken creep, I've become far less interested, and I think that's where it loses me.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I think that's one of the stronger elements of the film, is that it's not afraid to go darker, whereas a lot of the, say, Oscar-y biopic sort of films around that time are more interested in being kind of neutered so that they are accessible to a wider audience. I think this film really doesn't shy away from that, but nonetheless it's still not the most exciting thing. I mean, and yeah, as you know, delighted she's an Oscar winner. I think that's a really interesting performance in film, like that the Academy clearly chose to reward, that hadn't been, financially very successful, was really probably a shock that it was even nominated, in the end. Perhaps not Ed Harris, but definitely Marcia Gay Harden. She wasn't winning, any other major awards at this time for this film. So yeah, and I think this is a really interesting lineup. So you have Frances McDormand and Kate Hudson in Almost Famous, Julie Walters and Billy Elliot, Judi Dench and Shohala, and Marcia Gay. And to be honest, I would have been happy with any of those people winning. Not, I guess, in two ways of it's not the most exciting sort of group of nominees, even though I like all of those films and those performances. But yeah, happy for Marcia Gay. Julie Walters would have gotten my vote, but that's also because of the arc that character has and the shadow of what Billy wouldn't achieve if he didn't go to ballet school. So it's an easy character for me to absolutely adore. But what about you? Who would you have gone for?
I think Judi Dench should have been awarded for the best work of her career.
She's not even the best supporting actor in that film. Lena Olin was right there, but clearly the Weinsteins had no interest in Lena.
Yeah, no, it's shame on them. Judy is the weak entry in this lineup, this performance. But I do enjoy it a lot. I enjoy Chocolat a lot. So
love Chocolat.
It works just fine for me. According to Marcia, Judy wasn't as gracious as the other performers.
Apparently she shat on her door.
Left a little bag of shit. Good for you, Judy.
No, this is all fake. This is, well, not fake news, but Marcia did mention this, but we don't have any proof, and she had to apologise afterwards, didn't she? So, for making the statement around
exactly.
Judi Dench.
So maybe Marcia just has it in for Judy for some reason that we may never understand.
Because she stole her Oscar.
But my true answer is also Julie Walters in Billy Elliot.
Yeah.
But sadly, an Oscar win that we would have thought leads immediately into wonderfully fruitful things, but so sadly it isn't the case. And as she has spoken about herself, she feels that this is a false perception of how stardom works, saying that after she won the Oscar for Pollock, some newspapers had printed that she should get $1 million bump. And then her sisters were writing to her saying, you're going to get this $1 million bump. And she then thought that she'd open the shutters to her hotel and Scorsese would be out on the lawn and the lawn would be made out of emeralds. And then she says that she never actually had less money than she did right after winning that Oscar, which is really not ideal at all. And it is a sad truth probably for many actresses, especially probably in the category she won in, where it can be too easy to get lost again. And I think if you do then look at what followed immediately after that, you could maybe then understand too. So in 2001, she stars as Masha in a production of The Seagull on the stage. With
Meryl Streep, right? Oh. I think like Jeff Daniels.
Oh, wow, okay.
I feel like Natalie Portman, I mean, that's a... But still, like, she's just won an Oscar and she's not even the star in a Broadway show.
But that is exciting. So
what a great cast.
Actually, what are you moaning about, Marcia?
You stupid bitch.
Oh. Moment of silence. Anyway, let's look at 2002. Back to the stage again, but this time she doesn't even make Broadway. She's off Broadway in a play called The Exonerated. And the next handful of years is, I think, really where I imagine these patchy moments are. There's kind of a spattering of TV works. None of them, when I was reading through, kind of stood out to me. They looked like a kind of odd variety of things. But the next big screen moment that we have for her is in 2003. And very importantly, this is where she teams up again with Clint Eastwood, where he is directing. And this time it is in Mystic River, where she then gained her second and latest Oscar nomination, playing the character of Celeste Boyle. She was nominated in the supporting category again here. So, Mystic River. This is a film that tells the story of three childhood friends, and it kind of the main focus is them later in life. As they've probably drifted apart, we kind of get this moment at the beginning where we see them and see an incident happen, which kind of leads into things that would then follow and perhaps how they would react to things. But anyway, cut to many years down the line, and we have Sean Penn, who won an Oscar for his role in this, Tim Robbins, who also won an Oscar in supporting, Sean Penn winning lead, and Kevin Bacon as these three friends. And we have Sean Penn, whose daughter goes missing, whose teenage daughter goes missing, and is then found dead. Kevin Bacon is the police investigator leading the case, and then Tim Robbins is the sort of more distant friend who then gets the finger pointed at him because he was present on the night where the daughter was before she went missing and had returned home covered in blood, which is where we first encounter Marcia.
But that's a good Boston accent.
Where we first encounter Marcia as his father. No, she actually is playing his wife. Panicked to see him in such a way, helps him out, washes the clothes, but then herself may start to uncover what she believes to be a different truth of what happened to him on this night than what he suggests as fending off someone who was trying to mug him.
Did we mention at the start his character is taken by men and sexually assaulted and abused. And
Yeah,
yes,
so but that's a very good point to make. So that's the sort of opening. What do you call it? An opening segment. Prologue?
Well, prologue, but yeah, that seems wrong here. But it is kind of a prologue of like, these were 3 boys that were friends.
Yeah.
Any of them could have been taken by these men, but it was Tim Robinson's character.
Yeah.
And these are the repercussions from this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a victim of sexual assault. And that does then impact how we see things unfold for his character. But I would be remiss to not mention Laura Linney, who is also in this, having a great time. Not nominated for an Oscar, sadly.
But she was that same year nominated for Kingsley, which I think she would have been nominated for Mystic River if it wasn't for Kingsley, where she's more prominent.
Yeah, I reckon so for sure. But yeah, Marcia in this, it's a kind of fairly conventional, to be expected role. The wife confronted with a situation, she's not sure what to do. She probably tells the wrong people, in that she has a moment where she goes to Sean Penn's character, who is her cousin's husband. I think Laura Linney's character is her cousin. Sean Penn's character is her husband in this. And tells him that she believes her husband may be to blame.
What do you say happened?
That he was mugged. That he bashed the mug's head in the street. That he might have killed him. But there was nothing in the paper.
Setting in works everything that would then follow. So, a fairly uninspired piece for Marcia to play. I think she does a really, really solid job with it. I don't think it's as exciting as we've seen otherwise from her, but what I will say is that, and this is maybe just me and my preconceptions and assumptions, but I think of Marcia Gay in a certain way. I think of her as having a sort of elite energy, not to say elitist, but an elite energy. I can imagine she's someone who likes the finer things, but that may all be incorrect based on things she has said about her career. I feel that this character is very much the opposite from who I imagine Marcia is. Very grounded, downtrodden, perhaps you could say, working class. And she definitely lives in that character and feels authentic as that person, which I think I find quite surprising when you look at Marcia's other work, and therefore why I think she's a very versatile performer. Has good moments, very strong. I think I can understand this as an Oscar nomination based on the kind of role and the love the film was getting across the board. But maybe not too much more Satan than that. I am not as inspired by Sean Penn's performance and Tim Robbins' performance as I remember being when I first really loved this film years ago when I watched it for the first time. I thought they were, especially Sean Penn, was like top tier work. Watching it now, I wasn't quite sure. I think it's good. I certainly don't think it's bad, but it just wasn't doing it for me as it once did.
Yeah, I mean, it is not a film that I reflect on as one of my favorites. I do think of it whenever, it's a great example of a film aimed at adults that are dealing with big themes and has a lot of actors giving big acting performances. But what I think works, or I think is special about Mystic River, is that the scale of it, and that the actors not only meet that scale, but enhance it. So it's almost like an opera. That's how it operates. There's a big tragedy. All these characters have this sort of burden on them and this sort of trauma, really. They all have different trauma and different things, and the film is not subtle like an opera. It is telling you everything all the time, and really obvious things might happen. It's even to me obvious what Sean Penn decides to do towards the end, towards Tim Robinson's character. Doesn't really make sense. That doesn't add up, what's going on there. So when other things are revealed and all this sort of thing, you're like, well, of course. But that's the point of these sorts of opera pieces that will reflect society and give you an escapist look at something that's so unbelievably traumatic that you wouldn't want a naturalistic version of that story. So yeah, I actually am quite fond of it. Marcia is fine. I think she's very good at a part that is simply there to keep the story moving forward and connect the male characters, which sadly that's what the women in this film have to do, including Emmy Rossum, who plays Sean Penn's daughter, so briefly, because they have to kill her off to get things going. But yeah, I
really like that. The operatic comparison, I think, makes me want to even reevaluate it again, because I think that's very interesting, and now I can see it, because watching back the Sean Penn iconic is that my daughter in their sequence, I was like, oh gosh, this is a bit much, but it does feel like an operatic crescendo. And then the other sort of beats in the film, Marcia and Sean on the steps, where she sets up Tim Robbins' character, and then even Laura Linney's almost kind of
Lady Macbeth. Yeah, well, this is it. Like, it's also Shakespeare opera. And even Marcia at the end shouting for her child, like you know, at the parade. It's all so big of a scale, and it's all emotion, and it's all these actors really delivering, because if they didn't, you wouldn't buy into this. So I am really impressed. And that it won 2 acting Oscars, I guess, it's like, well, firstly, it's easy to award actors that are really, really, really performing. But also, yeah, they really got the tone of it.
Yeah, there is definitely something there. So maybe I'll give it yet another go with
God, no! I'm never watching that film again.
So 2003 also brought about roles in John Sayles' Casa de los Babies, and Mona Lisa Smile. I don't know anything about Mona Lisa Smile.
Oh my God, I had forgotten she was in that. She's an etiquette teacher.
Oh, good.
And like Juliet Stevenson is in it, and Julia Roberts is the teacher that comes to the school, and there's Maggie Gyllenhaal, Kirsten Dunst, and Gwyneth. What is her name? And Julia Stiles. Anyway, it's a really charming film. I've not seen since it came out, but yeah, it has its moments, and it's quite pleasant.
Oh, okay. Maybe I can add that to the list of watches for Marcia. Thankfully, it seems that after this Oscar nomination, this is where we see her filmography become wildly dense in terms of roles.
Content.
So the upcoming years are... what do we get? So we see her in Welcome to Mooseport, Bad News Bears, American Dreams, American Gun, which earned her an Independent Spirit Award nomination for Supporting Actress.
Yeah.
I think that's a film around the gun laws in America and the consequences of poor gun laws in America, and I believe she plays a single mother in that. I don't know too much more. In 2005, Marcia starts her recurring run in Law and Order SVU, Special Victims Unit, playing Dana Lewis, for which she scored an Emmy nomination for Best Guest Actress. And I think she would end up being in maybe 4 episodes playing the same character between 2005 and 2008, maybe.
Oh, wow.
From here, we then have films like Canvas, The Dead Girl, and The Invisible, which then takes us into 2007, where we see what I reckon we'll probably both agree is one of her most memorable film turns in Frank Darabont's The Mist. So this is another occasion for Darabont where we see him taking on the adaptation of a story by Stephen King, in this case a novella. Marcia Gay here is playing Mrs. Carmody, who is a fanatical and God-fearing character. She ends up being stuck in a supermarket with a host of other characters, the lead being played by Thomas Jane. We also have Laurie Holden, Toby Jones, William Sadler, who will be very familiar to many from other Darabont films like The Shawshank Redemption. And there's a lot of other folks in there. And they're trapped in this supermarket because there is a mist that has descended on the town and concealing within what appears to be something a very dangerous. The Mist becomes a monster movie. I don't think that's a spoiler to say it becomes a monster movie.
No, I think that's how it's set up now. Kind of.
Yeah, I think that's the gist, and that's fair.
But is the monster outside or inside?
Oh, good one. Speak to that.
Yeah, The Mist. Yeah, so all these people trapped in a grocery store or supermarket, and different dynamics take hold. And Marcia Gay's character is a biblical
gay.
Biblical gay. She's a biblical gay. She is trying to tell everyone this is the end of days.
You can't go out. I won't allow it.
Won't allow it?
It's against God's will. Don't you know that by now? Haven't I proven myself again and again and again?
This is not a subtle film again.
Really?
And her role really is, is the monster inside the store, and in a film where we don't actually tend to see the monster outside till the very end or towards the end, like she is playing the antagonist, and she is clearly having a great old time. The film as a whole focuses a bit on her of like, oh, how are we going to take charge, or how are we going to get out of the grocery store because this person has driven everyone demented, and then it leaves the grocery store and loads of other things happen. But I guess for our conversation, the main focus is Marcia Gay, and I think she's good. Like she's believable as a wicked Bible throwing sort of person. Does have a bit of depth to her in terms of you believe that she is a believer, like you believe she believes these things. Like there's a moment where she's like ready to be taken by a monster, but overall I think the register of this film and all of the performances are so off the scale that there's not really a way to be able to like, for me, to judge that sort of performance is hard because I don't know where it's set. I don't get a real sense of what is this place, like who is this character, where the hell are they? Like it's kind of so over the top, but I had a great old time. And yeah, my partner, he was so excited to watch it, and I had such a blast watching it with him because he was enjoying it. It's a sort of movie if you watch alone, I would think, for me anyway, I would not enjoy in the same way. But as like a collective, like what the hell can happen next in this wild film, and particularly with her, this wild character, like how the hell are they going to shut up this Bible woman? But yeah.
Oh yeah, it's quite something. I mean, some of her lines, it's death, it's the end of days, and my favourite, when I needed a friend like you, I'll take a squat and shit one out. I think she does the fanatical preachiness very well. I watched this film alone. This was my second time watching this film alone.
I don't know why I'm laughing. It's not fun. I don't.
And much to your surprise, perhaps.
You love it.
I love it. Yeah. So I actually do think it has a great sense of place. I understand where it is. I would say this, for me, is perhaps, yes, very on the nose, but a good example of sort of post 9/11 American horror. We've got sort of fear of the unknown in there, mistrust forming, suspicion of others, people then turning on each other, and then divides.
Turning on each other.
Yeah, turning each other on.
Well, that happens in one part, yes.
But it's a very exciting moment. And then sort of what would have been small divides in society becoming these massive chasms. So we get the split, and then Marcia's very much leading one side of that split. We get the divide between sort of this religious fanaticism and then logic of the lead character, played by Thomas Jane. And these things intruding, these monsters intruding what is supposed to be, because it's a supermarket, a safe place. So all of these elements sort of build into, I think, what was showing up a lot in cinema, American cinema particularly, American horror particularly. There's a lot of other examples, some also quite on the nose, like Cloverfield, War of the Worlds, around this time, where we do see kind of these invasion ideas really creeping into things. I think it's even more prescient now when I watched it than it was 16 years ago. I think these characters could all be considered, no matter what side they are on, as sort of red state, right-leaning conservative types. And we can even see the cracks that are forming in there. If we look at how things are now in a post-Trump era and what was going on there, and the divides that were forming because of him, even within conservative voting states, and what would have been a consistent political record suddenly shifting because of a disagreement, which was led by people buying into fanaticism. So all of these things I find really supercharged and interesting when watching it now. And it is a film that's very renowned for its ending. I won't say what the ending is because it does make it interesting. And maybe most interestingly in this case, Frank Darabont changed the ending from the original in Stephen King's novella. Stephen King himself even said he wished he had ended it this way because he kind of likes the provocative take on things and how it sort of leaves everything that we have seen up until that point. So The Mist for me is, as you describe in many ways, but I guess I see it differently, and I'm a big fan.
I think, actually, I take it back. I think if I watched it alone, I might have got more out of it. But watching it with my partner as a simple sort of pleasurable sort of entertainment, I did not get half the things you're talking about. But they all ring true as well.
But I mean, I think it's still, I would say, for me, quite an easy take. That's putting things... I think they're meant to be there for sure. I believe that. But... I think it should also maybe play well as a piece of lighter entertainment, and perhaps it doesn't, which may well be a failing. But hey, look at us changing each other's minds on
films. No, I enjoyed it. We had such a great two.
Good. It is a super interesting one, even if the effects do feel quite dated.
Yeah.
So, what else have we got going on in 2007, Marcia Gay? Well, we see her take on... again, another mum character, which this is probably around this time that we do really see that sort of taking off and becoming a common feature. The lead character's mum in particular is something. So that here we have her re-teaming with Sean Penn, but in this case he's actually the director, and it's his film Into the Wild, and she is playing the lead character played by Emile Hirsch's mother.
I love that film.
I really do like it a lot too. And we did talk about Into the Wild when we spoke about Catherine Keener, if you are keen to go back and listen to us talk about this film a little bit more. She is good in this, but I think fairly familiar ground, I think, with what she's doing in Into the Wild in particular. We then see her teaming up with another Mystic River. Alan, we've got her with Kevin Bacon sharing top billing in Rails and Ties, which was directed by Clint Eastwood's daughter, Alison Eastwood. So a real sort of trend of her keeping things within the Mystic River bubble at this time. In 2008, we see her play alongside her real-life daughter, Eulalia Sheil, in a little film called Home. I reckon a fairly underseen film. But exciting that she got to play alongside her daughter. 2008 also where she stars in the second season of Damages alongside Glenn Close, which then I think went into 2009 as well, which is where she would also earn the second of 3 Emmy nominations on The Courageous Heart of Irina Sadler. In this case, in the category of Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Limited Miniseries or Movie. The Maiden Heist also arrives this year, so that's a film release alongside folks like Morgan Freeman. And a really important stopping point for us, we also have Drew Barrymore's Whip It, where she is playing Brooke Cavendar, who is the mother of Elliot Page's lead character. So again, we have her playing the mother of the lead character. And in the case of this film, she's a conservative-seeming mother pushing her daughter towards beauty pageants. But then her daughter is sneaking off to live out their newfound love, which is skating in a roller derby. Yeah. And it follows Elliot Page's character as she finds this joy. She brings her friends into this world. it is hidden from her parents. Inevitably, I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to tell you that they do find out, and it's in those moments that we get really lovely shades of Marcia Gay, and she's playing a version that's like both sides of what we have seen her do before in one character. So although she seems like a conservative mum, elitist, snobby, she's actually very, very much a grassroots grafter. She works as a postwoman. She ends up putting probably everything she has into seeing her kids succeed in this world because she loves it. So I think it's just someone whose passion sort of guides them to seem a certain way, but their home life and how they interact with their family is very, very different. And I'm so charmed by her. I'm so moved by her in moments of this film. This is maybe my favourite of her mothers on screen.
Well, it's the one, this film is arced around Marcia Gay's character. So at the start, we have Elliot Page arriving to do their speech. And Marcia Gay's reaction to Elliot's hair being dyed blue is kind of a panto over the top reaction, like the close up on her face, like, I am furious.
I'm sorry that these pageants don't live up to your high moral standards, Bliss. But there's a lot you can learn from them, no matter what you go on to be in life.
She has all of these standards that she upholds, and for herself, what we see of her through the story, Marcia Gay, is like she's upholding it outwardly, but then she's secretly having cigarettes. She's doing her. Yeah, she totally is different when she's doing her job as a post person. But she presents herself a certain way in most other cases. And then towards the end, it is Marcia Gay's character that is the one that has the end note, basically, because the whole story has not been about Elliot Page finding their voice in this. It's about Elliot Page being able to be themselves while making their mother proud. Like, that is the story. So that's why I think Marcia Gay's character here is the most interesting mother part she's ever had. And I think one of the more interesting mother parts we've had in kind of a rom-com-ish, not rom-com, but a light comedy film we've had for a long time. I think it's really special.
I think it is really, really special indeed. And I think even though there are queer elements to it, kind of casting aside some of the characters in the roller derby are definitely queer. But that even not being part of it feels like a very queer film.
Yeah,
this is
so
all
coded,
very much coded in a certain way, and
because and I think that's why, again, this is a film that does seem to resonate with queer people more than like a heterosexual audience, let's say, because all people want is to be accepted.
Yeah.
Like, it may not be your mother or it may not be your parent or whatever, but you want to be accepted by yourself. Like, actually, there's a motif or two things, like a song, The Greatest Love of All, Whitney Houston, that is sung at the start, and Marcia Gay and her other daughter are singing it loudly, and Elliot Page is not engaging, is not happy. And then in the final beats of the film, you see Elliot performing that in a space where they're happy, and it is glorious. And, I just think it is. And also, if you're choosing Whitney Houston as a song to articulate that sort of journey, then you are going for a specific sort of audience. So yeah, I think it's really special. It's a shame Drew Barrymore hasn't done more films.
Yeah.
I mean, the cast. We don't have, taking up loads of time anyway. But there's so many amazing people in this film, and I just think if you haven't seen Whip It, find it and watch it. It is 90 minutes. It is such a charming film.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I remember seeing it in the cinema and loving it straight away back when it came out, and I loved it just as much watching it now.
Yeah, and I went to see it with my mother. Again, Marcia Gay being part of like my cinema experience with my family. And I remember us both crying towards the end, particularly Marcia Gay reading this letter that Elliot has written about how they feel about their mother.
Knowing my mother is proud of me means more than any crown.
And I remember being like, that's all I want too, is to make my mother proud.
Oh, well, that's very, very beautiful.
And that's why I did this podcast. No, she couldn't give a fuck about that, but I hope other things I do.
You're proud of him. We hope you're proud of your baby.
Moving on, what else has she done? I don't want to talk about this shit no more.
Okay, well, I'm going to now sort of kind of trot through 2009 until now, because those are sort of, we're kind of past our main focus points. So kind of just bear with me as I do a little bit of a rundown of what then the years after looked like. So in 2009, Marcia earned her first Tony Award win for Best Actress in a Play in Yasmina Reza's Gods of Carnage. This is very exciting.
Yeah, directed by my old boss, Matthew Warchus.
Wow, how fun. Yes, I noticed that it was him, actually. And this was its Broadway debut. In this production, she would star alongside Jeff Daniels, Hope Davis, and James Gandolfini. So very, very exciting indeed.
And also, when she won the award, she was nominated alongside Harriet Walter and why can't I think of that amazing Janet McTeer? But the cameras, they were both in Mary Stewart, and the cameras confused them. So when Marcia Gay goes up to win her award, she also corrects that for the viewer. Say, by the way, the gorgeous woman with blonde hair is Janet McTeer, and the gorgeous woman with the darker hair is Harriet Walter.
Wow.
And I was like, this is you being as cool as cucumber again, winning an award, and just basically like, I know the house rules, I know what I'm gonna do. It's a thrill. She doesn't say that again, but yeah. So I love it. That's a little random bit of trivia you can watch on YouTube.
Gorgeous. I will be doing that. So then what have we got? We've got in 2011 we see Detachment. 2000.
That's just me and you.
Yeah, that's where we're now going through our history.
Oh, sorry, wrong file.
Because in 2012, If I Were You, and appearances in episodes of Body of Proof and Bent, so you again. In 2013, we have Parkland. 10 episodes of Aaron Sorkin's The Newsroom. So this, of course, reteams her with her Broadway co-star Jeff Daniels. 2014, we've got her in Woody Allen's Magic in the Moonlight. Mm-hmm. In 2015, and we did mention this briefly, we have her in Grandma, which is a really lovely, terrific little Lily Tomlin movie. And also we have the now wildly popular and beloved Julia Garner, who is also in that. They're playing the three generations in this movie.
Women.
Of women.
Just women. Just female stories.
Oh, great.
Women.
Okay, love that. We also this year have her playing Christian Grey's mother in 50 Shades of Grey. She would then reprise this in its two sequels. Fuck the Razzies for nominating her for one of them.
Oh my God.
She also then stars as one of the main antagonists in the first season of How to Get Away with Murder as the sister-in-law of Viola Davis's character. And this is where she starts a run, quite a long run actually, in a series called Code Black, which would she would work in for 3 years on from this point. In 2019, we see her in The Morning Show, which earns her her third Emmy nomination, where she's playing reporter Maggie Brenner. 2021, we see her in Moxie, which is the Amy Poehler directed film. In 2022, we have her in Confess Fletch, which I must actually catch up with because it seemed to go down quite a treat with those who caught Confess Fletch. Tell It Like a Woman, which is a very, very little known title at this point, but known now as holding, at this point in time as we record, an Oscar nomination for Diane Warren's song. And maybe this is the year that Diane's going to get that Oscar.
Back off RRR and Mitski and who else? Or
I know everyone
Rihanna.
that would be great to win. Lady Gaga.
Oh yes, my God, I forgot about Top Gun.
Sorry, Diane. This hopefully won't be your year either, but maybe it should just happen.
Well, Marcia Gay would be in another Oscar-winning film if that did win.
I think this is also the year that we got the show you mentioned earlier, which is what, Uncoupled? Is that what it's called?
That's correct, by Michael Patrick King, who decided to make a kind of Sex and the City-esque comedy show with Neil Patrick Harris, who is just recently uncoupling and is rediscovering his place in gay society. It is exactly what you would imagine from Michael Patrick King, good and bad.
Okay.
There was a whole conversation about unprotected sex, which was ill-informed, for instance. So that's a shame. There's a lot of but there's also, it's fun. It's light.
Okay. I'm not going to watch it.
And she's fun.
This is the year that we also have So Help Me Todd starting on the television. And then if we look at what's upcoming, so we have Daughter of the Bride, which you sent me a screenshot of, I think, the poster the other day. And boy, does that look like something.
Aidan Quinn, another Irishman. And I think they might have chemistry.
Here's hoping. We also have her set to be in Michael Keaton's directed film Knox Goes Away, which looks to be a thriller where she's starring alongside Al Pacino and James Marsden.
Wow.
But then closing off that, I just wanted to throw in another little quote because this was quite charming. And we have Marcia saying, "The only thing that seemed to me I could do in such a way that no one else could was acting. I thought I can be a doctor, but there's going to be someone else who is just as good or better. I can be a lawyer, which I still sometimes think I would love to be, but I think there's someone who can do it just as good or better. So being an actor, there will be people who can do it just as good or better, but I'll have my voice, and no one will have my voice."
I'm pretty certain Viola Davis could do her voice. I'm going to put good money that I could come up right now with 10 people that could do her voice. No.
You're cruel.
I'm joking. No one is doing it like Marcia Gay.
No, truly.
So I can't... Well, obviously we're going to watch Mother of the Bride. Is that what it's called? The Aidan Quinn, Marcia Gay?
Daughter of the Bride.
Daughter of the Bride. Oh no, maybe she's not even the lead in it. In my head she was the lead.
No, I think she looks to be... I mean, she's the bride.
She's the daughter of the bride.
No, she's the bride.
Oh, okay. I just can't keep up with anything anymore. So we're going to get that. I think I'm excited for her future. I'm also really excited to hear what you want for her future. And even more than that, I am ham. I can't wait to share this quiz with you.
Perfect. I love a quiz.
What would you say is your favourite Marcia Gay character? Like, if you had to pick one scene of hers to watch again and again, and that character to spend time with, who would it be?
I'm going to say it's going to be her with the bat at the beginning of The First Wives Club.
Exactly. I knew it. I knew you were going to say that. So we are doing something. We're going to take that scene, but try and see what other Oscar winners and Oscar nominees have played therapist and patient.
Oh.
I couldn't come up with a snappy title. I was trying really hard.
Therapist and patient.
Okay, yeah. So Doctor Who, basically. Okay, that's a good one. Doctor Who, that's the question. But also Patient Who.
Yeah, that's where it loses its ring.
Loses its ring?
No. I lost my ring!
Is it Overboard? Is that a niche reference? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
That's how Goldie Hawn falls off the boat. She lost her ring.
Poor Goldie.
Anyway, enough about random films that are coming into my head. Are you ready for the first clip? Now, I want you to identify the film, the actors, and if you can, which one is the Oscar nominee and which is the Oscar winner.
Well, every clip... Oh, I see.
Every clip is going to have an Oscar winner and an Oscar nominee.
Both? There's going to be an Oscar winner and an Oscar nominee in every clip?
In every clip.
Whoa.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is the first one.
You think it was your fault? How do you feel now?
I can't move.
You can't.
Why can't I move?
You're paralyzed. Just like that day when you did nothing. You did nothing.
That is, of course, one of the best in one of the most exciting films of the past 10 years. That is Get Out, and that is one of my idols, Catherine Keener, who is the Oscar nominee. And then sat opposite her, we have Oscar winner, Daniel Kaluuya.
Correct. All the points.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing that clip. It's always a joy.
Okay, number 2. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
He makes me want to do things
I understand.
that I've never wanted to do before.
I got it.
You're gonna laugh, but he didn't actually know where the clitoris was.
Really? Did you show him?
Of course. I mean, he's so uninhibited. Just happy to learn.
Oh, wow. I actually, as soon as you said this round, this is the first one that came into my head that was going to have to pop up. So that is Oscar winner Meryl Streep as the therapist, realizing that her client is sleeping with her son, and that is Oscar nominee Uma Thurman.
Correct.
In prime.
Oh, yes, sorry. In their prime. Okay. You ready for number 3? You're doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
Am I in trouble for kissing an orderly or giving my boyfriend a blowjob?
Melvin says you have some very interesting theories about your illness. You believe there is a mystical undertow in life, quicksands of shadows.
Yeah, and another one of my theories is that you people don't know what you're doing.
Oh my god.
I'm so sorry. These are way more explicitly sexual than I realized.
No, but I love it. So I know that that's Winona Ryder's voice. I'm guessing based on what she's saying that this is Heather's. No.
No, incorrect.
Okay, something else where she's talking about blowjobs.
Not Little Women.
Yeah.
Or Age of Innocence.
No.
It's going to be so obvious when it occurs to you. It's later Winona Ryder.
Oh, so it's Black Swan.
No, earlier than Black Swan. It's a film which I assume, I'm pretty certain was a vehicle for her, but it actually was somebody that played the supporting part that really became the face of that film and actually won an Oscar for that film, but they're not in this clip.
Whoa. Fuck, this one's gonna get to me. Hold on.
What if I was
Winona?
talking and then you talked over me? What would you be doing?
The right thing.
Do the right thing. You got it. Winona Ryder, she talks to a therapist.
Oh my god, that's not helping me at all. Hold on. Girl interrupted. Oh no, of course. Oh my god.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Angelina Jolie is really become the face of that film, although Winona Ryder was the lead.
Yeah, okay.
And do you know who she was speaking to?
I can't remember who the therapist is. So, the voice is so familiar. The voice sounds like it has flashes of Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire about it.
Well, it's not. No.
I can't remember who it would be. And it's a great voice, though.
Of course, this is a great voice. It's an Oscar winner, Vanessa Redgrave.
Oh, heaven.
An all-round ghastly woman, is what I've heard. She's made so many people I know cry.
Well, your friends are babies.
Oh my god.
If you're listening...
They're babies.
Get over yourselves.
Well, they're talking to a therapist about this therapy session we just put up and triggered them. Well, amazing. What do you want your prize to be? Because you basically got everything right bar one.
A car.
Okay. Congratulations. You'll get a car.
No, I want...
World peace.
I want to see the lovely suggestion that you gave us earlier, which would be a sequel to The First Wives Club with Marcia as one of the leading wives.
With Sarah Jessica Parker. And Victor Garber could be a first husband.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't make sense.
No.
But who cares?
But it's fun.
Sorry, are you talking about your prize or your future hope for Marcia Gay Harden now?
Both done.
I'm over.
Let's move on.
I've had enough. Well, it might be. Is that your hope for her?
No, that's going to be my prize, but I mean, now it's my main hope for her. Huh.
Oh, makes you think. Well, my hope is a remake of Space Cowboys, directed by Drew Barrymore, with previous Oscar-winning supporting actresses coming back and going up to space. For Drew can figure out the reason. It doesn't like fixing a satellite. So I'm thinking Marcia Gay,
great,
Octavia Spencer,
fabulous,
Patricia Arquette,
stunning,
and Young Ju Young.
Great.
Yeah, I think those four going to space would be amazing.
Oh my goodness.
I was going to put in Penelope Cruz, and I was like, well, she's way too young to be like have history with these people.
Mm.
I mean, those ages are very varied, so I'm not saying they're the same age, but they could have worked at the same place at the same time at one point.
Gosh, love it. Okay, great. I'm going to say, based on the very exciting things that are swirling around the Oscars at the moment, the Daniels are nominated directors for their wonderful film Everything Everywhere All at Once, which we have discussed on the Michelle Yeoh episode. Another massively celebrated gay favourite, Jamie Lee Curtis, has got her first Oscar nomination in that. And I just see, not that they're similar performers at all, but I would love to see Marcia doing something like Jamie Lee Curtis is getting to do in that film, where it's sort of already starting a little wiry and unhinged and then just barrels into quite some ground, as does Michelle get to do in that film. So let's have the Daniels repeating their success of this film, doing another crazy world challenging situation with Marcia at the heart of it, in amongst the chaos. I'm assuming they'll continue with their chaotic thread. That seems to be one of their trademarks at this point. And you know what? Get Michelle Yeoh in there again. Why wouldn't you? Get Jamie Lee in there too.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
And Stephanie Hsu. I mean, get Angela Bassett.
So maybe it's even just a sequel. But no, it's something fresh. It's something new. And Marcia gets to be in there too, having a wild time.
Yeah, that's great. She is going to be someone who I presume, and maybe this is wrong, will be turning up in films for, the rest of her career.
Yeah, like 5 films a year.
But I really hope that there are things that are pushing her and a bit more varied, let's say, than like the last few years. I say that, but that's mainly film, because on TV I do think she's getting more interesting things. So she's an interesting example for this podcast, because I actually think she's great. Like, she's doing great, that's how patronizing, but it's a really interesting career, and it's just I wish there was more on film to allow her to do more interesting roles, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah,
they're, even though I've said about the shade she brings and all that, we want to get her out of this box, and I would love to see her get something exciting. Heck, going back to that quote where she talks about Martin Scorsese, and feeling also like when she turned up in the bus and got off the bus, he'd be the one like asking her to be in his films. Never happened. Martin, come on, lots of options. Let's challenge things, challenge her, challenge the whole system. Yeah, I agree. So, while we're busy trying to force people to work with Marcia Gay Harden, where can people find us online, Scott? You can find us, we can find you in some dark corners of the internet watching some questionable pornography. But you
me?
Can also
I didn't know who you're talking about.
You can find us, should you want to be in touch, or hear what we're up to, on social media, Twitter and Instagram at don'tknowher_pod. You can also email us at don'tknowherpod@gmail.com.
Yes, and please do rate, review, share us. It really helps other people to find us. And as always, a huge thank you for listening. And thank you, Scott, for joining me. That sounds like I'm the boss.
Well, no,
I'm
you kind of are the boss. So thank you for being the boss and for everything that you do, Michael.
And thank you for my top.
Oh.
And for my t-shirt.
You're welcome. I'm such a good matchmaker.
All right, on that note, see you later, guys.
Have a good one. Bye.